Hi everybody, welcome to another video of Game of Thrones Academy. Hi Tamar.
Hello.
As usual, we're going to look at A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones through the lens of real history and real politics, so we can learn something new about the story and hopefully learn a little bit of history along the way. And we are very excited about this video. We've been waiting to post it. This is a video about the Maesters. Stay tuned later in the video for Itamar's mind-blowing bold prediction that will give you all the answers that you've ever been looking for, not only in A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones,
to the meaning of life as well.
but for the meaning of life, about the meaning of life. Okay, so Itamar, we're talking about the Maesters. What do we know about the Maesters?
The Maesters are, let's say, the knowledge class.
Right.
They are like the scholars class, the bureaucrat class.
They're the science guys.
The science guys, yeah. They are providing an intellectual services to the powerful houses of the realm.
Yeah, they have like a long laundry list of things that they have.
It's not, let's say, it's not knowledge until they say so. They have monopoly on knowledge, basically, on creating knowledge.
Right.
And spreading knowledge, which
Right.
is education.
And the Maesters provide services.
Mm-hmm.
Here is the list of the things that they do. They are scholars, healers. They are learned men. They're science guys. They give you the weather when winter is coming. They have monopoly on long distance communications.
They control the media, yeah.
They control the media. They do accounting. They do warcraft. Like they advise how to fight wars. They're bureaucrats. They're historians. Basically, they're Renaissance men.
Mm-hmm.
For example, a few Maesters. You have Meister
Lewin helps the Starks in the north.
And Grand Maester Pycelle
In
in
the
King's
capital,
Landing to advise the king, sit in the small council, and Meister Aemon on the wall. They're all crucial, very important. They have a lot of power sitting in the room with the lords and the kings and be there and be part of the decision making.
They are usually in the backgrounds. They're sitting in the councils and then giving advice, but they're like a tool, a tool
Right.
for to rule.
Right.
It's like a computer. You have a computer,
Right.
you have the internet, you go to the master. Okay, what happened there?
The IT guy, Maester.
Yeah, the IT guard, and they're bound by vows
Right.
of celibacy,
Right.
some kind of checks and balances of this world.
They have no ambition of their own.
Yeah,
like
they
personal ambition.
can't inherit property, and they can't give property, and then can't hold property outside of what they already have, which is the Citadel. So they can't create like a class of scholars,
Right.
which will take a bigger part in the power pie in this world.
And there's this cool quote by Maester Lewin about the Maesters. Service as a Maester is a noble calling, one of vital importance to a prosperous realm. It is little wonder that there are some who refer to the order as the Knights of the Mind. Okay, so before we get to your bold prediction, do you see any historical parallels and inspirations for the Order of the Maesters?
Yeah, I think they were inspired by the medieval monks. There were like these beacons in a time that up until later was called the Dark Ages. So there was they were like the beacons of light. They held in their monasteries a lot of ancient knowledge from Greece.
So they were
and
part
Romans.
of the church.
They are the ones that created knowledge and spread knowledge in these monasteries. They had these scribers that copied and made copies of books and spread them in the 13th century. From these monks and from that church came out the universities. Started as a place to train priests, because priests back then were very ignorant, and most of them didn't know how to read. And later on, 100 years, 200 years, the universities broke from the church and started to be more independent and started to control their own curriculum.
He took the church, and in the stories he divided it into two parts.
Yeah, the faith part, the religious part, that they control the doctrine,
Right.
and spread the doctrine and decide basically what is doctrine and what is not.
Okay.
And the knowledge part, which is decides what is knowledge and what is not, what is true and what is untrue. And so we divided this monopoly, the faith monopoly and the knowledge monopoly, into two, which basically what happened later on in our history.
This is very important. There is a reason that he chose to emphasize the knowledge part is different from the faith part.
But note about that, the faith and the Maesters both sit in Oldtown.
Mm.
So I think there is some kind of connection
Right.
between the Maesters and the faith, even more than what is obvious from the books.
So now we get to your bold prediction. I think this is your boldest prediction ever. Oh my God! Don't be uncomfortable. It's an incredible prediction. Everybody's gonna love it. So what do you see happening to the Maesters? How do you see them impacting the conclusion of the story?
The Maesters are not only providers of services, of intellectual services,
Okay.
but they are players. They have ambitions.
As a faction.
As a faction. Like, if, let's say, if the merchant class are a faction,
Okay.
then their end game will be a world that puts their talent and skills on the top of the pyramid.
Right, right. 'Cause it's better for them.
It's better for them. And if you
Okay.
have like the warrior class,
Okay.
so the warrior class will want to create a world in which the warrior class skill is much more.
For example, in Japan, the samurais, they objected to the gunpowder being instituted as a weapon because that would not work to their favor. They can train for 20 years and then just a village
so
person.
if we look at the Maesters as a faction
Okay.
that currently lives in a world that is superstitious, that is
Okay.
filled with magic, even though the magic is dormant, it's now starting to rise again.
Right. And that's a threat.
They will want to create a world in which their skill, their way of doing things will be the right way and the important way in the society, and their role as the provider of knowledge,
Right.
as the creator of knowledge, will become much more important.
Where is the confrontation with the Maesters? You see that in Game of Thrones, the first book, there's old Nan who tells Bran all these stories, magical stories about children of the forest and giants. And Maester Luwin goes out of his way to tell Bran, this is just
Stories, the myth. Yeah.
They have all these links, and each of them is about a different skill. And the Valyrian link chain, basically, he says only to ensure that magic is still treated as a myth. So they see magic as a threat to them, as the enemy. And there are some rogue maesters who are not towing the company line. And for example, Keyborn, he works with blood magic or whatever. And there are these rogue maesters at the end of A Feast for Crows.
Master Merwin.
And these rogue maesters, they are afraid of the establishment. They're afraid they'll be killed. So there is a real struggle here.
Their main enemies are the dragons.
The dragons.
Are the magic bringers, the creatures that basically awoke magic from its sleep. The dragons are bringing an element in reality that is out of control of the Maester's hands.
Right.
And we get a lot of, I think, clues when Maester Marwyn talks with Sam, and he's like hinting like, who do you think drove the dragons away the first time? Who killed them the first time? Who killed the dragons? Yeah, so maybe
it's the Maesters.
There was
not some
kind
knight.
Some kind of a conspiracy of Maesters in order to kill this magical element in reality.
So they already did it.
They can't control. And if we look at A Song of Ice and Fire, there's a story that is starting point is late Middle Ages.
Okay.
The period that comes after the Middle Ages is the early modern period. This period of time, the early modern period in Europe, and that come after from Europe, that influenced the entire world. There are a series of events that really changed the perspective of humanity in according to how to understand reality and how we understand our place inside this reality. We're talking about the Renaissance. We're talking about the printing press revolution, the scientific revolution, the discovery of the New World, the Protestant Reformation, the start of putting the man in the center instead of God in the center. Like living in this period is important. Living in this world is important. In the Middle Ages, it wasn't that important. This life was, temporary. And 30, 40, 50 years maybe of suffering and poverty and hunger, in order that the real thing, the most important thing is the afterlife. And then the Renaissance man and the early modern period say, no, the man is important.
So this caused for religion to be in decline in the early modern period. And if we equate religion and superstition in the story to magic, this means that magic will be in decline.
My prediction is that the Maesters are trying to create a world without magic. They are trying to break in the spell that influences people's life and perception of reality. And when they will create this world without magic, they will be one of the most important figures in this world. What happened in the early modern period? They broke the spell. They found a method, or we call it the scientific method, a method to understand reality.
A different method,
a new one. A new one that concurs with reality, with the empirical reality.
For example,
why does the rain comes? Why the rain comes? Yeah, because I danced a little dance. There's some agent behind it, and then comes like this breaker of the spell and say, no, it has nothing to do with your dance. It's because of humidity from the ocean and with winds and whatever. So he broke the spell.
So basically, what you're telling me that George R. R. Martin wrote a fantasy book series that its conclusion would be a world without magic, fantasy without magic?
We start the story basically without magic. We as reader know magic is starting to wake, but the characters and the common knowledge in this world is no magic.
No magic.
No magic. And when we look at our modern world, we live in a slightly postmodern world, but in the modern world, the creators of knowledge, the spreaders of knowledge, the one that doing all the research and defining all the policies are experts, are academia people, specialists, experts.
So while we see in the story magic going up steadily and getting stronger and stronger and more influence and getting more political influence, so now you think that by the end of the story the magic will die?
I see this story as some kind of a translation to this period of time in which people admitted their ignorance and said, we don't know. And from this admission of ignorance comes the will to discover. So this short period of time that was involved with a lot of tectonic shifts, like earthquakes, big major political earthquakes, kingdoms falling down, kingdoms and states becoming more consolidated, more central power, more representation. 300, 400 period that started here in this period, in the 15th century, early modern period, and we see it in the story.
If you look at it as a story as a whole, you are introduced to the Maesters as a faction only in the fourth book, and then, so it has to play itself out. It cannot go back, oh no, they won't succeed. Now you will see with Sam in Oldtown, you will see them more. There's a POV character in Oldtown to show you more. So they have to be more important. They have to do something significant towards the conclusion of the story.
Yeah, and he didn't introduce them for no reason, just to them to fail completely.
Right. In A Dance with Dragons, the Maesters, they send the Maester to Daenerys, the mother of dragons, and you can get the sense that maybe they want to do her harm.
The Song of Ice and Fire could be the swan song of the Ice and Fire, and the swan song of this magical world. There will be some kind of an epic battle.
Right.
I don't think one of the sides, the fire or the ice, will win. It's some kind of a sort of a balance, but maybe will negate itself.
So by the end of the story, if you say no magic, basically, let's break it down. It means no dragons.
No dragons.
Dragons are dead.
No others.
No others. Others are dead.
No children of the forest.
No children of the forest.
No shadow binders.
No shadow binders. Nothing. Warlocks. Everything.
There will be relics from the past. So the ones that controls history can shape memory to everyone. So basically, they can defeat magic, and they can, when they will write the history, they will say magic was always a superstition.
Right.
Always a superstition. And the reality that you are now, living in now, with no others and no children of the forests and no dragons, it cannot come back because it never existed. And we have the power to write it.
You're saying that the magic will die and the Maesters will win.
We won't see a Maester sitting on the Iron Throne or whatever, or ruling. I don't think this is what they want. But if we look at our world today, a world that if we want to create knowledge and spread knowledge, we need experts and specialists. This is a world created by the scientific revolution and basically university.
George R. R. Martin has said the ending would be bittersweet. So it's actually a better world, the world that the Maesters want to create. This is the world that we live in.
Through education.
Education.
And let's make sure that education
Education, education, and education.
This is a world that we prefer living in. We wouldn't want to have others behind the wall and dragons.
We
and
won't
spells.
send our kids to die on some remote wall because they are, like to read and write poems or stuff like Sam, you know.
Levanti? So we had a few technical difficulties, so we had to reshoot the ending of this video. This is why we are dressed a little bit differently and we look a little bit different.
Yeah, thanks Obama.
Okay, Obama. So, if you agree with Itamar and you think that the Maesters will win by killing off magic and creating a magicless world, a fantasy-less fantasy world, you can comment in the video if you disagree, of course. If you enjoyed the video, click like. And want to thank our early patrons on Patreon. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. And if you want to support us, we'll add a link in the description. And subscribe to get our next video. See you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Sababi?